To do what?
To defeat the very first werewolves, a dangerous and infectious breed.
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, where I cover vampires, werewolves, and other supernatural creatures. I recently covered the top 5 oldest vampires, so naturally we would have to look at the top 5 oldest lichens as well. I have to say, it's a lot harder to find werewolves that live beyond a normal human lifespan. Vampires are often depicted as ancient, such as Dracula, but most werewolf stories involve someone being turned for the first time, and are usually not immortal. That being said, I dug into almost every movie and franchise and found some exceptionally ancient werewolves. Let's get started and talk about the top 5 oldest werewolves. And one honorable mention I couldn't resist throwing in. If you enjoy videos like this about supernatural creatures, leave a like and subscribe for new videos every week. Real quick before we get started, thanks to Aura for sponsoring another video. I only work with brands if I like their product, and Aura is extremely useful and has already helped me out a lot. Data brokers sell your information to anyone who may want to target you. Scammers, spammers, and who knows who else. This results in all those annoying spam emails and phone calls. Your full name, email, home address, relatives, even your health records. It's all out there for strangers to find. That's why I've started using this video's sponsor, Aura. They show me which data brokers are selling my information and automatically submit opt-out requests for me. When you submit an opt-out, they legally have to oblige. Aura has already taken my information off 12 sites and is working on 13 more. I've seen people with over 100 brokers that have their data. This is probably my favorite tool. It cuts down on spam and protects me from hackers who could use this information to access my other social media accounts, bank accounts, or sensitive information. Aura also constantly monitors the dark web and data leaks and will notify you if any of your information was in there so you can change your password if necessary before it's too late. Aura provides all the protection you need with built-in antivirus, VPN, password management, parental controls to limit your child's screen time, identity theft insurance, and more, all without having several different apps. I found it very easy to set up, and best of all, you get everything for one affordable price. You might already have some of these tools, but Aura is the complete package for protecting my data. Aura is always on, keeping you safe 24/7. It's very important to protect yourself online, and Aura can help you do that. Go to aura.com/Cogan Lollins to start your 2-week free trial. Link will also be in the description down below. Thanks so much to Aura for sponsoring another video and supporting the channel. Starting off at number 5, we have the Beast of Gévaudan, also known as just The Beast from the TV series Teen Wolf. This is one of the most unique and interesting werewolves in the show, and I think in media period. This character is inspired by true events in France. During the 1760s, a creature began attacking locals. A total of 210 attacks resulted in 113 deaths and many injuries. Victims were often found with their throats torn out or half eaten. The creature was apparently killed several times before the attacks finally stopped. Teen Wolf takes this story and puts a spin on it. A French soldier named Sébastien Villet was on the run from British soldiers. He trips and falls onto the ground, accidentally drinking water from the paw print of a wolf on a full moon. For some unknown reason, this turned him into a werewolf. But not just any werewolf. The beast was massive and surrounded by smoke-like shadows. According to the Argent family, which hunted the creature, the beast was oil black, solid but shapeless, like a shadow, pretending to be real. This is extremely strange for a werewolf transformation, and he is the only one like this. His transformation is more akin to an illusion or magic, rather than a physical transformation. We see footprints in the snow, and rather than gradually changing, they just instantly switch to a giant wolf paw. This is honestly one of my favorite werewolves. The unique aspect of the curse, the reference back to the Beast of Gévaudan, very well done. Sebastian went on to kill and attack many people, totaling hundreds of victims. The church eventually declared the monster a messenger of the devil. This particular event vilified werewolves for centuries to come. This was the single biggest event that made werewolves feared and hunted. Before this, they lived mostly in secret and no one really knew they existed. But that's over now. Lichens in the show Teen Wolf are usually turned by a bite. As far as I know, Sebastian is the only one to be turned by drinking from a paw print. Eventually, Sebastian is killed by his own family at roughly the age of 30. So how did he make it on the list? Well, roughly 300 years later, a group known as the Dread Doctors were able to resurrect him. They're a group of mysterious doctors, dressed up in what looks like gas masks. They also seem to be immortal, because they've existed for quite a long time. They brought the beast back to life by using a teenage chimera as a host. A chimera is a human that's been modified to have the abilities of one or multiple supernaturals. Every night, the chimera would turn into the beast, until eventually, it would completely take over the body. So due to Sebastian's unique transformation, or just how evil he is, he can never fully die. Somehow, even after death, the spirit of the beast lives on. If Sebastian was around 30 years old when he was turned into the beast, and that occurred in the 1760s, then he would be roughly 290 to 300 years old when he was brought back. This makes him considerably older than the other werewolves in the series. The next oldest werewolf is around 110. It's possible other werewolves can live to 300 or more, but they are usually killed before they can reach that age. So we are starting off with 300 years old. Let's see who we have next.
Success.
The number 4 spot belongs to Lucian, the first of the Lycans from the Underworld series. Before Lucian, there was only werewolves, an uncontrollable species that could not change between their human and wolf form. Once they are turned, they are stuck in wolf form forever. Lucian was the result of a pregnant woman being bitten by a werewolf. As a fetus, his body was able to change the werewolf virus and adapt to it, making him the first Lycan. This allows him to transform between human and wolf form at will. These are also some of the few Lycans in fantasy that have 100% control over themselves in wolf form. I've said this before, but I feel like 80% of people that have watched Underworld don't know that werewolves and Lycans are two separate species. Lucian was born in the dungeons of Castle Corvinus. After being discovered by the vampire elder Victor, Lucian was raised as a servant to the vampires and was forced to turn others into Lycans, so they could be the vampires' daylight guardians. Eventually, the Lycans would rebel, and Lucian would fake his own death and go into hiding for centuries, until he reappeared in the first Underworld film, which takes place in the year 2003. We don't have an exact date for when Lucian was born, but it was roughly 1200 AD, and this would make him around 800 years old, quite a bit older than the Beast of Gévaudan.
This is his war. Victor's.
The number 3 spot goes to a werewolf from the TV series The Originals. Something unique about the werewolves in this series is you cannot be turned. You have to be born a werewolf. As long as one of your parents is a werewolf, then you can trigger the gene. This happens when someone takes a human life. So as long as you never kill someone, then you could live your entire life without triggering the werewolf gene. This is often hard to avoid for people in the show because even accidentally killing someone in any way will trigger the gene, such as self-defense or hitting someone with a car. Werewolves enjoy many of their abilities in super strength while in human form. The biggest downside to these werewolves is they forcibly turn every full moon. The turning process is described as being extremely painful, all 206 bones in your body breaking and reshaping. The first time a werewolf turns, the change usually takes longer, possibly up to 5 to 6 hours. Yeah, I'm gonna pass on this werewolf curse. Apparently, if you embrace the change rather than fight it, it can speed up the process quite a bit. This reminds me of the werewolf transformation from being human. It's so insanely painful, nobody would ever want to be a werewolf. This werewolf species was born in the year 500 AD. That's roughly 1500 years ago. A powerful witch named Anadu was hunted down for her crimes by the tribes in the area. They managed to capture her, but before they could kill her, she cast a curse on all who were present. The tribes had used wolves to hunt the witch down, so she cursed them to turn into wolves on every full moon. As the witch was killed, this immediately triggered the curse, like a dead man's switch. The one who stabbed her immediately changed into a wolf under the full moon. The tribes present on that night would go on to form the 7 bloodlines. Now onto the question at hand. Who is the oldest? Well, werewolves in this series are actually not immortal, so they can't live any longer than a normal human. There was one werewolf named Ansel that was resurrected, technically making him over 1,000 years old. But we've already done one example of someone being brought back to life. The person I want to focus on is actually Ansel's son, Niklaus Michelson, one of the originals. The earliest record of his existence is 990 AD, making him at least 1,034 years old. The reason Niklaus is able to live this long is because he's not a pure werewolf, but a hybrid. Vampires are immortal, and because he's half vampire, this is what allows him to live so long. He was one of the original vampires and the first ever hybrid. This makes him unique compared to the other original vampires and extremely strong. For nearly 1,000 years, he had a kind of curse placed on him that didn't allow him to take his wolf form. He eventually breaks the curse, but we still never get to see him transform on screen. So Niklaus comes in at just over 1,000 years old, at least 200 years older than Lucian. I wonder who could be older than the original hybrid. At the number 2 spot, we have the ancient lichen from the movie Viking Wolf. A mysterious and powerful creature begins terrorizing a small town, leaving victims brutalized in the forest. These werewolves are permanently stuck in wolf form, and similar to Harry Potter, they are not a human-wolf hybrid-looking creature. Instead, it resembles a real wolf walking on all fours. The true identity of this wolf remains a mystery, but we do have a rough idea of how old it is. The beginning of the movie shows us in the year 1050, the Viking chieftain Gudbrand the Grim set out with 20 ships to plunder Normandy. In an abbey, which is a building of monks or nuns, the Vikings discovered a secret room. For some reason, the monks begged Gudbrand not to enter, but he struck down the monk and broke through the door. He thought gold and treasures awaited him, but there was something else. What they found inside that secret room was the wolf. It seemed normal at first, but they would soon come to realize they released the Hound of Hell. They took the creature with them, and something happened as they sailed home. By the time their ship reached Norway, everybody on board was dead. The dog leaped ashore, and thus evil found its way deep into the Nordic woods. There it would hunt for centuries, killing whenever it got the chance. So let's take a look at this story. We're told that the Vikings found the wolf locked in an abbey in the year 1050. If the movie takes place in the year 2022 when it was released, that would make the wolf 973 years old. That's pretty impressive, but you might be thinking, that's younger than Niklaus, the werewolf we just covered. And you are correct. However, the thing is, 1050 is just the year the wolf was found, not when it was born. There's no way to know how long the wolf was in the abbey, or how long it was alive before that. For all we know, it could be thousands upon thousands of years old, especially with a name like the Hound of Hell. But I'm going to go with the safe estimate of 1100 years old. One big mystery about this film is, who is this? It must have been a human at some point, but nothing is revealed about its identity. Anyway, now we can move on to the number 1 spot.
William.
Finally, the number 1 spot belongs to William from Underworld, the first of the werewolves. I said before that Lucian was the first of the lichens, and before lichens, there was werewolves. The story all begins with the immortal Alexander Corvinus. He was a Hungarian warlord during the 5th century. A plague came through his village and killed everyone, except him. For some reason, his body was able to adapt the virus, mold it. Instead of dying, he became the first pure immortal. Not a vampire or werewolf, but an immortal without any animal genes. Not long after this, Alexander had 3 sons, 2 of which were born with the immortal gene activated. It's speculated that due to the virus, their genes were unstable, and that's why Marcus mutated into the first vampire when he was bitten by a bat, and William was mutated into the first werewolf after being bitten by a wolf. The wolf that bit William was rabid, and people speculate that that could be why William is feral, whereas his brother is not. William and other werewolves like him are turned by a bite and change within a matter of minutes. These werewolves are stuck in wolf form forever and have no control over themselves, similar to a few others on this list. These werewolves are some of the select few that are truly immortal. William was born sometime during the 5th century. This would make him roughly 1500 years old. Not only is William immortal and the first ever werewolf, but he was imprisoned for nearly a century with no food or water and survived perfectly fine. That means William could definitely live forever as long as no one kills him or rips his head in half. I know for every werewolf it's always roughly how old they are, but they never give us the exact dates. Regardless, I think William definitely takes the spot as the oldest werewolf. There is the possibility of the Viking wolf being older because we don't know its exact age, only when it was found. But I don't want to speculate too much, so I feel like William is the oldest werewolf with proof. I have one honorable mention, and that's Gabriel from Van Helsing. We find out during the movie that Gabriel has lost his memories. However, he still has one. He tells Carl that he remembers a battle with the Romans in Masada, and this took place in 72 AD. This would make him roughly 2,000 years old, although there are many clues in the movie that allude to him being the Gabriel, as in the archangel and left hand of God. If that was the case, he could be older than humankind itself, which according to the Bible would be somewhere around 9 to 10,000 years ago. This would make him the oldest werewolf by far. But he was immortal before he became a Lycan, and he's not a Lycan at the end of the movie, so it doesn't really count. Technically though, for a brief period of time, he was the oldest Lycan in any movie.
You don't remember, do you?
That's my video on the top 5 oldest werewolves. When I made the vampire video, there was so many options to choose from, and some of the youngest vampires were 1,000 years old. Werewolves are a whole other story. From the Wolfman to the World of Darkness, most werewolves are not immortal. It's just not a trait usually associated with werewolves. Even in Twilight of all series, the werewolves age at a much more normal rate than the vampires. Anyway, I did my absolute best to find the oldest werewolves, but if there's one I missed, please let me know. If you enjoyed this video and you haven't seen my top 5 oldest vampires video I did recently, you should check that out. I enjoy making these top 5s every once in a while to change things up, so I hope you enjoy watching them. Right now I have some amazing t-shirts that were designed by myself and a close friend, and I can't wait to show them to you guys. I just have to work out what kind of shirts, shipping, and some other nonsense, but I'll update you soon. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe if you haven't. It helps out a lot and I really appreciate it. As always, an extra big thanks to my members for supporting the channel. There's been quite a few of you at this point, and I really can't thank you enough, especially the supporters that have been with me for over a year. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.